Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have just beaten Tottenham Hotspur by 2-1 at Anfield to restore our 6-goal lead at the top of the Premier League table, and that is just a tiny part of the story from today's absolutely insane match of Premier League action. I mean, of course, let's start at the beginning with the Tottenham Hotspur goal. Just 47 seconds in, everything just on the surface of it seemed to completely fall apart. And you can talk about some luck that obviously leads up to the goal. You know, the deflection off of, I think it's Dejan Lovren's head, then bouncing off the post and landing perfectly for Harry Kane in the perfect position to head it home. And you can look at all that and say, yeah, you know, we've been undone by a ridiculous amount of luck there. But also the way Spurs just barrage through our midfield. I think it was Moussa Sissoko basically walked through a tackle from all three of our midfielders. I'm pretty sure Henderson, Fabinho and Wijnaldum all tried to get the ball off him and none of them succeeded. He just walked through all three of them, got the ball to Son. Son has the shot, and of course, as we know, the ball leads to Harry Kane putting the ball in the back of the net. And in some ways it felt catastrophic, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I think it actually negatively affected Spurs in a way, because as we saw from their lineup, I think they were saying it was only the fourth time this year that they've started with those four players up front in the league, with Kane, Eriksen, Son and Dele Alli all starting in the attack. Only the fourth time they've done it this year. The first time they've done it, I think, since they played Crystal Palace at home earlier on in the season. So it was very clear that Pochettino wanted them to attack, wanted them to play on the front foot. And the problem was, once they got that goal, immediately their head seems to switch to, we've got something to defend now, we've got to sit back. But the personnel on the pitch didn't suit that at all. They had way too many players whose mind was solely focused on getting the ball forward. And what they ended up with was people like Son and Eriksen tracking back. And that made life for Liverpool very, very easy on the flanks, because as we saw, Andrew Robertson had the beating of Christian Eriksen every single time. And what happened was Liverpool just stormed that Tottenham Hotspur goal for the next 40 minutes, for the entirety of the first half. And I was absolutely fuming that we hadn't found a way to get through after that first 45 minutes, because I was really thinking, you know, there's no way Spurs are going to carry on playing like this. Surely Pochettino looks at the way they've set up and thinks, we've got to change the personnel here. We need more defensive bodies on the pitch. Someone like Ndombele will come on or something like that. But they just didn't do that. They carried on as they were. And I have no idea why he did that, because while obviously we don't score in the first half, we absolutely ripped Tottenham Hotspur to bits. The amount of chances we created. Gazaniga had a very, very solid game, albeit most of the shots were ones that you might be disappointed in him for not saving. The sheer volume of shots we had on his goal, you feel like at some point one of them just had to go through. At some point the dam had to burst, and for that first 45 minutes that goal was just impenetrable. I mean, some of the football we played was out of this world. I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold, his delivery from open play was mind-blowing. From set pieces, bit rubbish, if we're being perfectly honest. Some dreadful corners in that game, some free kicks that were a bit naff as well. But the way he can just play the ball into the perfect position with the right curl, the right pace, the right dip on the cross and everything from anywhere on the pitch is sublime. You know, he can do it by getting to the touchline and whipping a cross in. He can do it from like 40 yards away from the touchline, the kind of position where you look at and think there's no point crossing from there, because you're never going to get the ball into the right position in the right way for the player to head it. But he just picks out Firmino like it's the easiest thing in the world. You know, he was absolutely phenomenal in that first half. I thought Fabinho right the way through the game was fantastic. His ability to win the ball back was sublime. Like, he looks impossible to play against at times. Every time he goes in for a tackle, it's like, you know, he's going to win the ball back. You just know straight away that he's not only is he going to win the ball back, he's going to stay on his feet, he's going to keep it moving, he's going to be able to dribble, and he's going to get an attack going. And I think our midfield, even though it's often seen as like the least attacking midfield we have, it's all about workhorses and about energy rather than creativity and stuff like that. I thought they were so integral to the way we relentlessly pushed Tottenham in that first 45, because I think if we had a player like Keita or Oxlade-Chamberlain in there, yes, they would have probably offered a little more in the final third. But in terms of how we constantly recycled the ball, you know, every time Spurs managed to get the ball away, it was a Liverpool body onto it first, and that was our midfield was absolutely key to that. If we'd had Keita or Ox or Lallana or anyone like that, they would have been 10 yards further forward, and there would have been more space in the middle of the park, which would have meant when Tottenham cleared the ball, it probably wouldn't have gone to one of our midfielders and it would have given them at least a minute's respite. What happened instead was this constant recycling of possession, constantly returning the ball into the danger areas, getting it back to the fullbacks, getting it back to the front three. The deliveries from the midfield as well was sublime. But in terms of the way they constantly kept the pressure on and made sure that Spurs just weren't allowed out of their own half for the vast majority of that 45 minutes was fantastic. So like I said, while the creativity wasn't always there, in terms of how they kept the attacks going, they were absolutely brilliant in this game. And like I said, Fabinho was just out of this world on another level. He was fantastic. So I can't really have any qualms about the first half. You know, obviously the only issue we can really have is the fact we didn't finish. But as I said in the pre-match video, that's basically the script every single time against Spurs. I don't know why it is. Maybe it is almost a thing to do with how the more chances you create, the less clinical players become, because maybe a complacency sets in. I'm not entirely sure I really believe in that theory, but it does seem to hold true in these types of games where we just relentlessly batter the opposition. But like I said, because we got to the half-time break without finding the goal, I was starting to get really worried that we'd never be able to get back into the game, because obviously it's not just about getting an equaliser. We've got to win. We've got to win these games, especially at home. You can maybe forgive a draw against a big team away from home. You know, Old Trafford last weekend, I know Man U are rubbish, but they're still considered a formidable opponent, and away from home, and given the circumstances, you could just about accept a draw out of that, especially given the lead we've got at the top of the table as well. But a draw at Anfield against anyone is just inexcusable. Liverpool needed to get 2 goals minimum to come away with the winner, and I just felt like Tottenham Hotspur were going to sort things out. They were going to change the way they played. They would go back to what they were originally trying to do. And I don't know whether maybe Pochettino tried to drill that in, but the players were just too concerned with trying to defend because of just how much we'd torn them apart, almost becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy where they think, well, if we get forward, they're going to have even more space and we'll just get ripped to bits. So they drop back and they allow us to attack, and it just leads to that vicious cycle where we create more and more chances. I don't really know what happened to them, but what was very, very clear was our mentality was so much stronger than Tottenham's throughout the game, because it never felt like the belief let up. It never felt, even though, like I said, I was worried we didn't get the goal, at no point was I like, the game's gone. You know, I think back to the game against them at Anfield last season where it was 1-1 with about 2 minutes of normal time to go. We had a few chances to get back into it, and that was a genuine point where I thought, you know what, I think this is gone here. I don't think we get the win, and I think the title race is gone. Obviously, Liverpool go on to win that game as well. But I never felt that downhearted. I never felt like there was so little hope in this game. It always felt like we had enough time to drive our way back into the game by hook or by crook, just get the goals we needed. And lo and behold, it happens, you know, and through one of the most unlikely sources as well. You know, everyone was crying out for Jurgen Henderson to get subbed off at half-time. People were saying that he was just the weak link in midfield. He's offering nothing going forward. If I'm being perfectly honest, he and Wijnaldum played exactly the same roles in the first half, and as I said earlier, I was entirely happy with what the midfield was offering, but he gets into the right positions. The kind of thing we saw from Henderson a lot last season, where he was suddenly popping up in spaces in the box that you just never expected from him. It catches the Spurs defence off guard. They don't realise that one of our midfielders is actually going to get that high up the pitch, and then, you know, maybe the finish is a little bit shanked. Obviously it's his weaker foot, and it's a slightly weird volley in terms of the way he gets it round those 2 defenders, and it just catches Gazaniga off guard, because by the time he tries to reflex save it, it's pretty much already got past him. But from that point onwards, 40 minutes left, the pressure we were putting on, it felt inevitable that Liverpool were going to get back into the game and win it. And it took a while, and it was gradually getting to the point where I was thinking, well, do we change things here? Because, you know, we've seen in the past, like the Spurs home game last season, the benefits of actually leaving on your starting 11, even though you may be worried that the fitness is gone. I don't think that's ever really a problem for this Liverpool team. You can argue all you want about the need for tactical switches in these kind of situations, but it is very much the kind of thing of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think our players are fit enough. So much emphasis is placed on these footballers being able to go the full 90 at full throttle. You know, the way we pressed Spurs in the first half, even I thought they wouldn't have enough gas left in the tank to go all the way through the game, but they proved me wrong pretty much again today. Like the way they just relentlessly kept going at that Tottenham Hotspur defence. And it was just a matter of, even though you could argue maybe bringing on fresh legs like Divock Origi would have helped out, those players on the pitch still had the energy to get the job done. And then the penalty, it's great work from Sadio Mane. You know, he knows that there's probably nothing's going to come from it if he gets away from the ball. But Serge Aurier, very clumsy. You know, Gary Neville said on co-commentary immediately after the penalty was given, when you watch Aurier defend, it's just a mess. Sometimes he just gets into a complete tangle, and Mane just worked that situation to the absolute maximum. And you can talk about it as a dive, and there is this whole thing about making the most of contact and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Aurier kicks him in the back of the leg and he's well within his rights to go down. So Sadio Mane goes down. Liverpool get the penalty. And it's another one where people look at it and go, oh, Salah, he's not very good at penalties there. He nearly missed that. But he scores them all the time. Every single time he scores a penalty, it seems, people look at it and go, well, I'm not sure about the technique there. But at the end of the day, whether it's black magic, whether he can see into the future, whether he hypnotises goalies, either way, he's scored all but one of his penalties since he arrived at Liverpool, and he is the main taker, especially when Milner's not on the pitch. So I'm perfectly happy, regardless of if he's putting them in the corner or if he's playing them right down the middle and it still somehow gets past the goalkeeper. Either way, if it hits the back of the net, he's good enough for me and he's good enough for you. So Mo Salah puts Liverpool 2-1 up, and at that point, things actually went a little bit wrong because suddenly Spurs defaulted to, I think, the plan they'd actually showed up to Anfield with, which was, you know, to get on the front foot, to attack, to put our defence under a lot of pressure. And I think it ended up being a very, very good move from Jurgen Klopp to switch to the back five. I know part of it was facilitated by the injury to Mohamed Salah, and hopefully he's absolutely fine and that was just precautionary. You know, I'm not entirely sure just how severe it is yet. We'll find out, I'm sure, from Jurgen Klopp and from the medical staff after the game and over the coming days. But Joe Gomez is obviously forced on. We make the switch to a back five. And if anything, I think it actually helped. Sometimes in the past, that has done Liverpool no favours whatsoever. It's led to panic, confusion, a complete loss of shape in the defensive areas. But today, the problem we had in those last 10 minutes was the fact that Spurs could just play through the middle so easily. You know, they played compact. They got Son to come in, Ali to come in, Eriksen to come in. And they tried to get through that sort of middle 20 yards of the pitch. And I think it was just so important to switch that back five, cram the middle of the pitch, stop them doing that, and make them force it out wide. Because if we're being honest, Danny Rose, not very good going forward. And Serge Aurier obviously goes off for a substitution, I think. And then, what's his name? Moussa Sissoko comes on and just wasn't really that effective from the right flank either. So a very, very smart decision from Jurgen Klopp in the heat of the moment there to switch to that back five that forced Spurs to play it out wide, pardon me, and basically just nullify their attacking threat for the last 10 minutes or so. So in the end, Liverpool come away with the win. I think, really, on the balance of things, it probably should have been a lot more comfortable than it was. I think if Spurs hadn't have got that goal early and still played like they did, then it would have been a very, very comfortable win. Although, of course, I think if they hadn't got that goal early, they probably would have played much different in the first 30 minutes. I think they would have come at us more. It would have been a completely different game. But as it is, Liverpool have come away with the 3 points. I'm absolutely exhausted. You might be able to tell my voice has just completely gone from celebrating the goals and, of course, the award of the penalty and, of course, full time. And even Alisson Becker's save in the 92nd minute. I don't think I've ever celebrated a save as much outside of, like, the Champions League final and the Champions League semi-finals and stuff like that. It was full on, arms in the air, screaming yes, just happy that we'd avoided conceding a goal. I mean, my voice has gone, my head's gone. I don't think I can take this for the rest of the season. I mean, what was this, match week 10? Yeah, match week 10, we got 28 points from a possible 30. That is absolutely fantastic. If we can keep that up for the rest of the season, then there's no doubt that Liverpool will be walking away with the Premier League title at the end of it. But there is, of course, a long way to go yet. Plenty of time for us to all develop severe heart problems. But in the meantime, I hope you did enjoy this video. That is all for today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, you know what to do. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LIVTOT TV on Twitter. And I'll be back soon with the pre-match content for the game against Arsenal. Until then, bye for now.